For me personally, through primary school and my sort of early childhood, was fairly comfortable with it. High school was more challenging because high school is always more challenging.
It's impacted me quite a lot. That 1 in 3 that had a brain tumour, I was one of the ones that got a brain tumour. So at 3 years old, I was diagnosed with a ependymoma, which is like a tumour that sits on the brainstem. That was inoperable. So I went through mega doses of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. I was a guinea pig, and I'm here 26 years later in remission, which I'm forever thankful for.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like if I didn't have someone there to help out. I've got an amazing family, but it would be difficult if I didn't have someone at home all the time.
But my early childhood development was absolutely impacted. I simply didn't have enough fuel in my little body to grow. But growing up, I developed healthy relationships with my siblings and my parents because we learnt very on that non-acceptance, blame, or questioning my life daily wasn't really going to get us anywhere.
When I first got back into year 5, so I was sort of the dumber one, I guess, because I had been in hospital, so I hadn't been doing much, so I was behind and I was extremely weak, so some people had bullied me, pushed me around. Not like hard, like beating me up and stuff like in the movies, but, you know, occasionally pushed me around because I was reasonably weak.
I had it to such an extent that at one stage my mother was terribly concerned because the doctor accused her of not taking the best care of me, and it wasn't her fault at all. She was doing the best she could. And this really worried me when I was growing up because the doctors were always, why has she always got a cold, because it was, lingering on all the time. Aren't you treating it, And my mother was getting very upset to the extent that in the end I used to try and hide my symptoms as much as possible.
But as an adult, I think it's really been adjusting to sort of the social things and being able to find a sense of community within the community with people with alopecia, but also, I guess, settling into, where I live now, where I work, the groups that I'm engaged with, and that's been a big help getting the awareness out to the people that are around me.
Every day, just the hearing issues, even just going into the shops, lots of people, they like or they hate the self-checkouts, whereas I'm the opposite. Because I don't have to physically hear somebody, I prefer to do that. Working all day long, I go home extremely exhausted because I strain all day to hear what people have been saying.
So it has affected us quite a bit. It's been very scary at times. We didn't know what it was, what would happen to us. Like the first time I heard when I was going to go to hospital for almost a year, I was extremely scared for that, yeah.
I guess the biggest challenge of being gene positive is dealing with the fact that 40 years has automatically, or 30 years has automatically been cut from your life. I guess growing up you think, I'm going to live to 80 or I'm going to live to 70, but when you're given a gene positive result, you it's like, I might live till 50, I might live till 40, I might live to 60. It's a real unknown, but something that is known is that your life will most likely be significantly cut short. So I guess it's dealing with the fact that I've got to deal with and do things that I want to do kind of now, otherwise I won't get a chance to do them.
Well, there's been lots of little hiccups along the way and challenges. At the moment I'm going through one trying to get a medicine that will help with my very high pulmonary artery hypertension. But because I've got CF, they don't seem to want to qualify me for the medicine because it might kill me. And this is what I'm hearing now, especially as I'm a geriatric with CF. We can't do that because the procedure might kill you. And they're just assuming that I'm not as tough as what I am.
It did present restrictions on us. Reva was often tired, and yet she achieved a lot.
Well, both the children were diagnosed within 6 weeks of each other. So for the first couple of years of that diagnosis period, I think, to be frank, the grief was overwhelming, absolutely crushing. It took a long time for us to actually work our way through that. And that meant that because of the children's differences, we couldn't really attend the usual baby toddler groups, music groups, and all those things that young mums often do. So right from the start, the whole experience has been very socially isolating. I couldn't really even make connections within my mum's group because my daughter was such a difficult baby from the off. She was always crying through all the meetings, so I never managed to make those easy social connections. And then as the children have got older, because of the challenging behaviours, play dates haven't been appropriate. We can't really go to other people's houses because they just destroy the things in their house. And so therefore, for us as parents, it's hard to make friends. It's hard for the children to make any friends because they've got no speech and they've got such differences. So that's a huge thing. All our extended families overseas, so we don't have a lot of social support in this country.
I think the children met with a certain amount of, if you like, schoolyard talk about Bruce. They had to deal with. And what that does for me is, remind me how fantastically well society has come along the road to accepting disability, and they don't now sort of stare and make rude noises, which happened when he was young.
It had a huge impact on our family. It started when my daughter was born with dislocated hips, and she had a whole raft of complications and health issues from a very young age. And when she was 12 and puberty hit, things suddenly got worse for her. She was unable to walk and was in a wheelchair. And I searched the internet for answers, couldn't find any. I kept going back to the hospital repeatedly. And at that time, we lived in Cairns, which is a very regional area. And in Cairns, you don't have much access to specialists. So I kept going back to the hospital and saying something's wrong. She had lots of health issues, wasn't able to walk, had severe pain. They took out her appendix, and it wasn't her appendix. She was still in pain. So I did a lot of searching on the internet, and we also travelled interstate to try and find doctors who knew what was wrong with her. In the meanwhile, what I didn't know was that Cairns Hospital had labelled me as Munchausen, that was causing my daughter to be sick, and had also reported me to Children's Services, but they didn't have a case to answer. But those labels and misdiagnosis and mistreatment, they stuck on her files. And so anywhere we went around the country, those labels and records followed us. They affected the treatment that my daughter got, and in some cases was refused treatment. So we had a major Brisbane hospital say that she needed internment in a psychiatric facility to learn to live with the pain that she had, because they kept telling us it's all in her head. We had a doctor say that she was severely emotionally retarded, and that stuck on her files and affected every treatment that she had after that.